Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This video is a part of a presentation of paper African literature. So today's my topic of presentation is Bridging Past and Future, Afrofuturism, African Futurism and African Identity. These are my personal details. So let us start by understanding what is Afrofuturism. This term is basically coined by Mark Theory. It is a term talking about the cultural and artistic movement that reimagines black future. Basically, in this, the themes revolve around African American themes. As very defined, Afrofuturism is a form of a speculative fiction where the answers are not there. So, this kind of a fiction is considered to be a part of Afrofuturism. Its concern is regarding the themes, particularly revolving around the African and American culture. On the other hand, let us understand what is African futurism. It is defined by the novelist, you can see her here, Nnedi Okorafor. She coined this term and she deciphered this term from above one that it is highly rooted in African culture. Whereas the first term is talking about African American origin, in this term is basically rooted in Africa. So all the protagonist and the setting of the story will be in Africa only. So it talks about the history, culture and realities rather than focusing upon the diaspora. Significance of this study is to examine how these two literary frameworks is helpful to understanding the canonical works of Nnedi Okorafor and Wole Soyinka. So this is my research question: how do A Dance of Forest, Who Fears Death and Binti trilogy engage with this framework of Afrofuturism and African futurism? And my hypothesis is that both three of the works will challenge the colonial narrative by providing a new black futuristic idea. So this is the tabular format of a literature review I have done in order to understand this topic deeply. So let us start by understanding the historical context of the text. Wole Soyinka's Dance of Forest is published in 1963. We are very aware about the summary of the work, that this is basically a work from celebrating the Nigerian independence movement. Wole Soyinka particularly with this work rejected the glorified idea of African history. So there is a blend of a supernatural element with African history. Second work is Nnedi Okorafor's Who Fears Death, published recently in 2010. So this work is set in apocalyptic Sudan. You can see here the cover page of the book. So this book revolves around the protagonist, Onye Fono, who goes on the journey of celebrating her personal identity. We can connect her with the Salim Sinais of Midnight Children of Salman Rushdie, and this novel is highly blending magic realism term which is coined by Salman Rushdie, and this novel explores the themes of oppression, gender violence and magical resistance. Third work is the trilogy, Binti trilogy, with having from the same author of Nnedi Okorafor. In this, the Binti is our protagonist and she is belonging from this Himba origin, and she travels to the space, meets aliens on the space. So basically this trilogy is situated in futuristic Africa, and it introduces also the cosmologies in sci-fi setting. So it blends the African, their mythology, their histories with the futuristic idea. So let us understand how these elements of Afrofuturism and African futurism is there in text. Talking about technology and ancestry. So in the Binti, this text is incorporated futuristic technology. Particularly they used astrolabes, interstellar travel. So the Binti is interstellar travel who goes for having a university in the space, and this is the journey of her where there is a blend of these technologies happening. At the same time, she is maintaining her Himba culture. So this is the very essence of this African futurism, and there is a blending of that. In another second text, Who Fears Death, this also fuses the digital consciousness and magical abilities. So as I mentioned about that, like the term magic realism is used in this work. So this showcasing the African spiritual practices, this happened in that. Alternative African history, particularly in the Dance of the Forest, we found out that Wole Soyinka challenged the idea of glorifying history of past, and that's why he rewrites the history with its origin, and that is what reconstructing the history is happening. and he also wants, like he blends the spiritual spirits of the jungles and other mortal character in order to assert the African origin. Second book is The Who Fears Death. This book is rewriting. In this book, the protagonist Oyenesengu is rewriting the book named The Great Book. So this book is a kind of an colonial resistance, as in the Decolonizing the Mind, Rugi Wathingongo talked about this, and even the Shashi Tharoor's Empire Writes Back, like that. She writes The Great Book, in which she writes her own Okeki people's history. So let us understand what the another term, myth, mysticism and supernaturals are there in the book. So first, as I mentioned above, that in the Dance of Flores there are a mingling of spirits and human mortal character along with the spirit character. So that particularly the Yoruba tradition is used by Wole Soyinka. So there is a blending of supernatural element and myths as well. Similarly, in the Who Fears Death, Oyenesengu is a mystical figure. She is a child of rape, just like the India Jabin of the Ministry of Utmost Happiness. She born out of the rape of her mother. So in a way, this thing is also a kind of a resistance of writing. So she is talking about, she is like fights against the patriarchy in that. And she also travels across the deserts. Throughout her journey, you can find out here the photos of that she is traveling across the desert, like having a sad identity. In the Binti, there is a blend of mathematical, cosmic travel and indigenous African wisdom. So Binti is studying mathematics, and while collecting that mathematics into the African space and future. So this blending of the supernatural elements makes this book to fall under the category of the term African futurism. She is a symbol of harmonizing the advancement with mathematics with indigenous wisdom. Particularly, she is the symbol of hope in this trilogy. Talking about gender, power and resistance. So both the books have the idea of feminist, and this both term even talking about giving a voice to women as well. So in the Who Fears Death, this is a text where the Oyenesengu resists the patriarchal structure. One of the incidents from the novel is that Arrow is the guru, a kind of a teacher, and he refuses to teach the Oyenesengu. This is very much connected with the Eklavya denied by Dronacharya. Similarly, Oyenesengu was denied by Arrow. So she resisted that idea, and she resisted the idea of having teaching from him. So that is a kind of a gender assertion by her, and even her resurrection of her clitoris and her ability to rewrite the destiny. And even one of the incidents from the novel is that in one village there is a people who kill her, one of the two group members of her, and that's why she blinds every people of the village. So this is also showing how she, as being a woman, having an agency in the world. Another in the Binti trilogy, she is of course a young African woman, and she is asserting her African agency. She was the only one on the space who was able to communicate with the Medus, the other alien tribe in the space. So she was the only one. So by this, Nembi Okorafor is trying to give an assertion to the Binti. And even she talks about how these, with the help of these narratives, the African gender narratives has been changed. So my conclusion is that Afrofuturism and African futurism act as transformative frameworks that reclaim African identity and challenge colonial narrative. They, by providing a very different perspective from what the primitive perspective is there, from that they are going far, and now they are portraying black identity in the space in the future with the blending of technology. So this is something is to be done. African futurism and Afrofuturism serves as a mode of resistance to whatever the writing has been happened by the colonial masters. When Dance of the Forest leans towards the realistic critique, on the other hand, both the works are very much situated in this African futurist aesthetic, and it advocates the agency of speculative futures. These narratives do not just reflect past struggles but actively shape the decolonized and set-determined future. So, by understanding these terms, we can having a new perspective on what the African identity is. These are my references, and thank you.